Ever wondered how one single moment in Game of Thrones could have changed everything? Let's talk about the duel that broke our hearts. Oberyn Martell versus Gregor Clegane, the Mountain. What if the Red Viper of Dorne had actually won? What if he hadn't let his emotions get the better of him? Let us rewind the tape and explore a world where Oberyn walks away from that trial by combat. Remember the stakes. Tyrion Lannister's life hung in the balance, accused of a crime he didn't commit. In walks Oberyn, not just as Tyrion's champion, but as an avenger. He's there for one reason: to make the Mountain confess to the murder of his sister, Ilya Martell, and her children. His motivation is pure, righteous fury. He's not just fighting for Tyrion, he's fighting for justice, for his family, for Dorne. The fight itself was a masterclass. Oberyn, with his spear and his incredible agility, was poetry in motion. He danced around the lumbering giant, landing blow after blow. He was faster, smarter, and more skilled. He had the Mountain on the ground, wounded, helpless. Victory was his. He just needed to deliver the final blow. But then came that fatal moment. He stood over his defeated foe, demanding a confession. You raped her. You murdered her. You killed her children. It was that obsession, that need to hear the words, that gave the Mountain the one opening he needed. A quick grab, a brutal confession whispered in his ear, and then, well, you know the rest. But what if Oberyn had simply finished the job? What if he'd thrust his spear one last time and ended it? That's where our story begins. In this alternate timeline, Oberyn stands victorious over the dead body of Gregor Clegane. The crowd is stunned into silence. Tyrion Lannister is a free man. The first and most immediate change happens right there in the arena. Tywin Lannister, a man who despises his son, is forced to watch Tyrion walk free. His perfectly laid plan to get rid of his abomination of a son is shattered. Does Tyrion stay in King's Landing? It's unlikely. The animosity is too deep. But instead of being a fugitive smuggled out of the city after committing patricide, he might be formally exiled. Perhaps Tywin, in a rare moment of adherence to the law he claims to uphold, banishes him to Essos. Tyrion would leave with his head held high, a vindicated man, not a hunted one. And what about Cersei? Her champion is dead. Her fury would be immense, but who could she turn to? She's robbed of her ultimate weapon, without the resurrected zombie-like Seer Gregor. Her reign of terror as queen would be significantly less terrifying. She wouldn't have that unstoppable bodyguard to enforce her will, to intimidate her enemies, or to win her a trial by combat against the Faith Militant. The High Sparrow's rise might have been even more successful without the monstrous force Cersei later wields. Her power would be based purely on political maneuvering, an area where she often lets her rage cloud her judgment. The political landscape of King's Landing would shift instantly. With the Mountain gone, the Lannisters' muscle is significantly weakened. Meryn Trant. A thug, but no Gregor Clegane. The fear that the Mountain projected across the capital would vanish, perhaps emboldening the Lannisters' enemies right under their noses. Now, let's look beyond the capital. Up in the Eyrie, Sansa, Stark, and Peter Baelish are making their moves. Littlefinger's plans are always complex, but a living. Celebrated Oberyn Martell in King's Landing throws a massive wrench in them. Dorne is now a major player, not a simmering pot of revenge waiting to boil over. The Martells, led by Prince Doran and represented by the hero Oberyn, would have a seat at the high table, their influence soaring. Littlefinger's Chaos Ladder just got a few new, very sharp rungs he didn't anticipate. Would his path to power be as clear? Probably not. A stable, powerful Dorne aligned with the Crownor against it is a force he can't easily manipulate. Further north, at the Wall, Jon Snow is desperately trying to convince the powers that be of the real threat: the White Walkers. In our timeline, the chaos in the south allows the threat from beyond the Wall to grow largely unchecked. But here, if the Lannisters consolidate their power with a new Dornish alliance, are they more or less likely to listen to the pleas of the Night's Watch? A stronger, more unified Southern Kingdom might actually be better equipped to send aid. Or they could be so consumed with their own power plays that they ignore Jon Snow entirely, just as before. It's a double-edged sword. And then there's Daenerys Targaryen, slowly making her way to Westeros. When she finally arrives, the King's Landing she finds would be very different. She wouldn't be facing the zombified mountain, a symbol of the unnatural horrors the Lannisters have embraced. Instead, she'd be facing a political landscape potentially reinforced by a powerful Dorne. The Martells have a history of Targaryen loyalty. Would a living Oberyn, seeing the dragons and a true Targaryen heir, push Dorne to side with Daenerys? It's almost a certainty. The Dornishmen never bent the knee to the Targaryens. They joined them through marriage. An alliance with Daenerys would be a natural fit, giving her an immediate, powerful foothold in Westeros from the moment she lands. This brings us to the long-term Game of Thrones. With Oberyn alive, Dorne is vindicated, not vengeful. Prince Doran's long, patient game pays off. Instead of the Sand Snakes leading a chaotic and ultimately self-destructive coup, Dorne becomes a unified powerhouse. Oberyn, the hero of the people, would be a charismatic and influential voice on the small council. The Martells could form a powerful bloc, perhaps with the Tyrells. Speaking of the Tyrells, their position becomes fascinating. Margaery's ambition to be queen is unchanged, but her path is altered. Without the monstrous mountain, Cersei is a wounded lioness, but a lioness nonetheless. However, a strong Martell-Tyrell alliance could completely sideline House Lannister. Imagine Olenna, Tyrell, and Oberyn Martell scheming together. That's a combination of wit and audacity that could bring down any house, even the Lannisters. Margaery's reign as queen might have been longer and far more secure with such powerful allies protecting her from Cersei's wrath. And what of our master puppeteers, Varys and Littlefinger? Varys, who secretly supports the Targaryen restoration, would find a powerful and willing ally in Oberyn. His plans to place Daenerys on the throne would accelerate dramatically. Littlefinger, on the other hand, would face his greatest challenge. His entire strategy relies on destabilizing the great houses. A strong, unified South under a Martell-Tyrell bloc is his worst nightmare. He'd have to work 10 times harder to find cracks to exploit. So, let's picture the final war. The Lannister forces are weaker, deprived of the terror that the mountain inspired. Their reputation is damaged, their champion defeated in the most public way possible. When Daenerys arrives, she isn't met by a fractured collection of kingdoms ripe for the picking. She's met by a complex political web. She would likely gain Dorne as an immediate and powerful ally, thanks to Oberyn. This means her invasion of Westeros would be less of a foreign conquest and more of a civil war with clear, established sides from the very beginning. The Great War against the Night King would also be different. With a more stable and potentially allied South, could Jon Snow and Daenerys have rallied the forces of Westeros more effectively? Perhaps the united front needed to defeat the dead would have formed sooner, saving countless lives, and the Iron Throne. In a world where Oberyn lived, the game for the ultimate prize is completely upended. The Lannisters' grip on power would have slipped much sooner. A Martell-Tyrell alliance could have dominated the court, possibly paving the way for a smooth Targaryen restoration with Daenerys, or even a negotiated power-sharing agreement. The path of blood and fire might have been replaced by a path of diplomacy and alliances. Oberyn's victory wouldn't have just saved Tyrion. It could have saved the entire realm from the years of chaos and destruction that followed. It shows how the fate of a kingdom can truly rest on a single moment, on one man's choice between vengeance and victory. What do you think? How would the story have unfolded if Oberyn had won? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into an alternate Westeros, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time.